Hi, this is Christina with the Stage Nature Center. Hoping you can hear me okay. It looked like I lost connection there and then regained the connection. So I see that a few people have checked in. Hello, hi. If somebody wants to give me a heads up just to make sure that you're hearing and seeing me okay, I hope I'm connected here okay. I apologize for the delayed start, was having some technical difficulties again. This is Christina with the Stage Nature Center, and I hope you can hear me okay. If somebody just wants to let me know. Okay, hi, we see and hear you. Excellent, glad to hear that. Okay, like I said, my name is Christina, and I'm here with the Stage Nature Center, or at the Stage Nature Center. I'm a naturalist here, and today we're doing another live program here from the Stage Nature Center. I'm here to help take care of the animals while we're closed and to do these live streams. So I'm glad that I get to be here with you. I hope you guys are all doing well. This is the Stage Nature Center that is here in Troy. That's where I'm at. And today's theme is a virtual trail exploration. So the past few days, I've been out taking some videos and pictures. Some of you I've talked to out on the trails. So if I've talked to you over the past few days, good to see you again. A lot of people exploring and enjoying the trails right now, which is excellent. So I'm going to share some of those videos and photos that I've taken over the past few days as highlights of what I saw out on the trails, so that way you can get to know our trails a little bit. But just to start, I want to let you know that we are, once again, the building is still closed, and we're closed through the end of May. So we will... as of right now, we will be reopening June 2nd, but of course that's subject to change depending on what is going on. We are also, our programs are canceled through the end of May as of right now. So unfortunately, we can't do those kind of programs for you right now, our in-person programs, but that's why I'm doing these live Facebook programs, so we can still keep in touch and you can still explore some different things about the Nature Center, things that are going on this time of year. So you've seen some of our animals that live here in the Nature Center. So, we're very thankful that we get to be able to at least do these virtual programs. But as many of you know, our programs, our public programs, are one of our main sources of income for the Stage Nature Center, for the Troy Nature Society. So the Troy Nature Society is who I work for, and we manage the Stage Nature Center, and we run all of the programs. But we're a nonprofit organization, so without doing these programs, we don't have the fees or the income coming in from the fees from the programs that we do. So if you have it in your means today, you can donate during this Facebook post. There should be a donate button up. You can also donate on our website. Any amount will be appreciated. Thank you so much to everyone who has donated so far. It really will help us now and in the long run, especially to continue to take care of the animals and ensure that we get to reopen and start doing programs live for you again. So thank you so much for those donations. I also want to mention that this past Tuesday we did a live fundraiser a naming fundraiser for our brown snake, which is one of our animal ambassadors that we have here at the Stage Nature Center. That is an animal that teaches people about reptiles that we see here in Michigan. And the brown snake didn't have a name yet, so we allowed people to bid, and the highest bidder, as of noon yesterday, was going to have the chance to name the brown snake. So that highest bidder was Nancy Youngerman. So thank you, Nancy, for bidding. Oh, Nancy, and I should say her nephew Vincent won the bidding. So they are going to be naming the brown snake Elsa. Vincent is a huge fan of Frozen. and so we will. So he wants to name our brown snake Elsa. So thank you again to Nancy and her family and Vincent. We really appreciate you participating in this. If you participated in bidding but didn't win, or if you want to still have a chance to participate, we'll be doing one more naming fundraiser. We have one more animal that doesn't have a name yet, and that is our leopard frog. And I'll be introducing him on next Tuesday at 1 p.m. during Facebook Live, and we'll do one more naming fundraiser that you all can participate in. So thanks again for participating in that. And again, those funds that are coming in, the donations are helping us with taking care of the animals and helping us make sure that we can reopen and do our programs once everything is somewhat back to normal. So thank you all for participating in that. So like I said, today we're going to do a virtual trail exploration. I anticipate that maybe this program will go about 45 minutes or so. It's kind of hard to say how long it's going to go. Please feel free to ask questions and place your comments. I'm trying to monitor your comments and questions on another computer here, so that way I can see them as they come in. But if I miss them, because I'm, as far as technology and doing this stuff here on my own, some of these things I struggle with a little bit. So I will try to keep track of your comments and your questions on my other computer here. If I miss your comments or your questions, I will try my best to answer them after the presentation. I'll put your answers in as comments. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things today because it's a virtual trail exploration. So it's not just one topic we're going to be talking about. So I'm not going to go into too much depth about each topic, because then we'll be here all day or several days. And I just want to kind of give you guys an introduction to our trails out here. So I'm going to transition the screen here to the first video that I'm going to show you. And this video, these videos that I took have been over the past couple days, like I said, to show you some highlights of our trails. Just to get you started, if you haven't been out here before, we have comes out to about 2 miles of trails, about 100 acres here on our property. The 100 acres includes the nature center part of the property and the trail system, and also the farm side of the property. There is a farm over off of Beach Road, between Square Lake and South Boulevard. There is a senior garden over there that is run through the city of Troy. This whole property is owned by the city of Troy, and they help to maintain it and help to maintain the building, which we're very fortunate of. They also support us by contributing funds to what we do here. So it's a great partnership that we have with the city. And then we get to teach people about it and help maintain the trails and some of the other natural resources that we have. So a lot of people are surprised to hear that we have about 2 miles of trails here. A lot of people from the road think that it doesn't look like very much, which it doesn't from the road, but once you get out on the trails, you'll see that there's quite a bit to explore. It's one of the few places left like this in Troy, and there's a lot of wildlife to see here because it's protected. We don't allow things like bicycles, coming out here with your bicycles, coming out here with your dogs and walking them. I'm a dog lover myself. I love my pet dog. But, these kinds of things like dog walking, bicycling, running isn't allowed, collecting of any kind, collecting mushrooms or flowers. All of these activities are disruptive to wildlife. And so we, as a nature preserve, we don't allow these activities so that way the wildlife can thrive and the plants and trees, animals can thrive here. So we really have a unique situation to provide a place like this that's left in Troy. So I highly recommend. It's a great way to get out into nature a little bit. The trails are fairly easy. We have several different trails, and the most popular trail is probably the Sugar Maple Loop, which is about 0.4 miles. It's not very long, and you can really see a lot of stuff on the Sugar Maple Loop, and it's the first trail that you encounter. So it's a great way to get out and explore some things. And then there's some longer trails, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. So let's get started with what you're going to see when you get out to the trails. What you're seeing here, and This is a video, so I have a lot of videos on here. So what you're seeing here is a video of our pond and the grassy area that's right out by the pond. The pond is a really neat place. The pond is actually the part of the Rouge River. So we have a unique situation here where we are in the headwaters of the Rouge River. Granted, the Rouge River doesn't get very large here, but it is an important role to play because we are in the headwaters, which means we're near the start of the Rouge River. So anything that goes into the water here, chemicals, garbage, pollutants, those are all going to travel downstream through to the rest of the Rouge River. So we do a lot to try to keep the Rouge River nice and clean. Friends of the Rouge River is a nonprofit group that comes out and does monitoring of the Rouge River to make sure, or to try to track the health, and they also do volunteer work days as well. So we're very fortunate to have them help with the maintenance of or help to keep the Rouge River healthy and clean. So what we have done here on our Stage Nature Center property is dammed up the Rouge River, so so that way we have that little pond there. You can also see a lot of deer around, actually everywhere here on the property. What you're seeing here are some deer that are in the back lawn by the building, and there's a deer up on our wood chip pile. Oftentimes towards the end of the day, deer are most active at dusk and dawn. So towards the end of the day, the deer will start moving from the other parts of the property back further in from the trails. They'll start moving up to the front of the property. They'll stop to see if there's any food at the feeders, although we try not to feed the deer because it's actually against the law now. I am going to do another program just on deer because that is a whole another program in and of itself. There's so much information, but just to tell you really quickly, now it is against the law to feed deer, to purposely feed deer. So it was already against our regulations to feed wildlife out here on our property of any kind. And now it's against the law to feed deer because of a disease called chronic wasting disease that is spreading through their populations. And I'll go through that more in a future presentation when I talk about deer, because we do have a lot of deer here on our property, it's a lot of fun because you get to see them and watch them, and they are a lot of fun to watch, and soon we'll be seeing their babies. So back to the Rouge River here. Let's see. The Rouge River, like I said, runs through our property. We don't have huge parts of the Rouge River, but we do see a lot of wildlife along the Rouge River, and one of my favorite things to do along the Rouge River is look for footprints. So you may not see the actual wildlife along the Rouge River, the actual animal, but a lot of times we'll see their footprints. Raccoons, like you could see there in this video, there were some raccoon footprints. They like to visit the Rouge River. They'll drink water, but they also like to eat crayfish. You'll also see deer footprints are very common to see along the Rouge River. We do a lot of things in our pond and in the Rouge River. During the summertime, one of our favorite things to do is to go pond dipping. So we'll actually look for wildlife in the pond, and we'll look for insects and crayfish. We'll use nets to dip for things in the pond. And it's a lot of fun to get to do that. So we learn a lot about the pond that way. Hopefully we'll get to do our public pond dipping program this coming summer. It's going to kind of just depend on how everything goes, but we do have a public pond dipping program scheduled for this summer. You can go onto our website and get the dates for those programs. And that's something that maybe you can do this summer if you have the opportunity to. So when Troy Today comes out, the publication that we use to advertise our programs, you'll see those programs on there, and again on our website. Oops. Okay. Here's another animal we can see on our pond. So there's been a lot of mallards hanging out around the pond lately, including geese. So these are ducks called mallards, and these are actually all males here. The males, you can tell the difference between them and the females because the males have the bright green heads, and the females are more of a brownish color. So a lot of times in the animal world, especially birds, when there's a difference in coloration between the boys and the girls, the boys are the bright, pretty ones, and the girls are usually duller. And a lot of times that's because the males are the ones who are working hard to attract the females. And then also, too, the females are probably the ones that are sitting on the nest. And so they don't want to have those bright colors because those bright colors might attract predators. So they want to have colors that will blend in with the nest. So if you see these mallards with a brown duck, that would be the male and female. There wasn't a female in this group when I took video the other day, although I have seen pairs of males and female mallards hanging around. Another duck we get to see here every once in a great while is a wood duck, which is a beautiful duck. I highly recommend you look up a picture of it or a video. I don't have any to share with you today, but it's another type of duck that we might see here. We also do see geese, and in fact, some of you may have seen online the other day that we posted a picture of a goose family, which that they just had babies that hatched out, so that's really exciting. They've been hanging out around the pond. Although you always want to make sure that you give wildlife their space, even though it seems like it's really easy to approach them, so you're not stressing them out. And also, too, geese can be very aggressive. Some of you may know this. If you get too close to them, especially when they have babies around, they will chase you down. They'll flap at you. They'll hiss at you. And they can, if you get too close and you don't heed their warning, they might leave you with a few bruises. So it's best to just give them their space if you see the geese and or the goose family here. Okay. Oops. Okay. Here is another video. So this is, I was mentioning earlier again that the pond is a human-made pond, and it's part of the Rouge River that we've dammed up a little bit, so that way we can have a pond and we can do programs like pond dipping. Here is the bridge that goes over the Rouge River from the pond, and it's the start of the Sugar Maple Loop, which is the trail that I was mentioning earlier. I love standing on these, oh, here's some more raccoon footprints. I love standing on these bridges and just listening to the water go over the rocks. It's so peaceful. Sometimes the river is a lot higher and sometimes slower depending on the amount of water. The past couple days the river has been quite low actually. So we also see animals along the Rouge River like turtles. We'll see snapping turtles. We'll see birds like egrets that they sometimes come into the pond. We'll see lots of different kinds of frogs, green frogs, leopard frogs. We also, every once in a while, we'll see an animal like a mink, which is a very rare occurrence to get to see them. But the mink like the water, and when I've seen them before, they've been running along the roots along the edges of the stream. And we were fortunate enough to get to see a mink once with a school group. And minks will eat other animals. Like they might eat something like a muskrat, for example. So they're another animal that you might be fortunate enough to see along our river, is the mink. Like I said, we see a lot of different types of bugs, and during the summertime that also attracts bats. So if you ever come out to the pond, you'll see a bat house out by the pond, because that's a great place for them. They love the insects, and one bat can eat 2,000 to 3,000 bugs in one night for dinner. So they're very handy to have around. And the bat houses give them a place to raise their young. And again, areas like this, where you have a pond or a river, attracts bugs, and so the bats like to feed off of the bugs above the water, and they'll also get drinks of water from the pond. So this summer I do have a couple of bat walks planned. Again, check our website for that. Hopefully we'll get to do that, where I'll go out with an echo meter, which detects their echolocation. and you'll get to hear it and see what their echolocation looks like on a screen on a iPad device. So that's something fun that we'll hopefully get to do this summer. So this time of year we are hearing different kinds of frogs right now around the pond. The pond is really low right now. You can see it's usually up a little bit higher than this. But, you know, it's a great place to see frogs at this time of year and listen to them singing like the green frog or the leopard frog. We haven't heard them singing just yet. Those frogs will start singing pretty soon. We have been hearing chorus frogs further down the trail. This little leaf that I'm showing you here is actually from a plant called a trout lily. And these are popping up everywhere. I haven't seen the flowers yet. The flowers are yellow. But the leaves are called, or the leaves or contribute to the name of trout lily because the leaves have this mottled look to it, kind of like what people think, or what trout look like. And that's why they're called trout lilies. So their leaves are popping up all over the place. Like I said, I haven't seen any of their flowers yet out on the trail, but we should be seeing those flowers here sometime soon. All right, so I'm gonna scroll through a few videos here that we already watched because it went out of order. I didn't mean to do that. Showed you that one. Okay, so one of the first things you'll be greeted by right now as you go down the sugar maple loop just past the pond is one of my favorite plants. Let me play this video for you here. So, and I'll show you a close-up here in just a moment. But all of these plants that you see here, they look like umbrellas. And a lot of people know them because they look like umbrellas, but it's one of my favorite plants. It's called a mayapple. And mayapples will have a white flower that will come out underneath the leaves. The flowers aren't coming out just yet, but they do tend to grow in these clusters like this, and I absolutely love them. They're a great native wildflower. The deer don't like them too much. They are toxic to some animals. They have a bad taste. So they're one of the plants here that the deer don't. There's where the flower is going to bud out, the white flower. So they're one of the wildflowers that do pretty well here growing at the Stage Nature Center without additional help. And that additional help is what you're seeing here in the video now. It's called a deer exclosure. It's that cage-like thing that you saw in the background there. And I will show you another video here in just a moment of a close-up of what that looks like. So another thing to look for when you're out on the trails are trees with holes in them. This is again on the sugar maple loop. But trees with holes like this are great places for animals and to live. For example, screech owls. We've seen screech owls in these holes before. You might see raccoons. They put their babies in holes like that. It's a great way to see wildlife. So one great way to look for owls is if you know that there are trees that have holes in them, like that tree right there I was just showing you. I always check, because if all of a sudden that hole looks like it's not there anymore, then that means there's probably something sitting in the hole, like an animal or like a screech owl. So they provide a great place for animals to live. So here at the end of the video here, this is our one of our deer exclosures. And I'm going to go forward here because I have, I'll show you a deer exclosure in another video. So here's some more video just again along the sugar maple loop. But wanted to point out on the trees, as you're walking along the trails, you might see trees with pink flags or orange flags, or even these tags on them. So if you see trees that have these tags on them like this is actually part of one of our citizen science projects that we participate in called Caterpillars Count, and it's something that our volunteers help us with during the summertime. We tag certain trees and there's a certain protocol, but basically we're looking at trees to see what kind of insects and caterpillars and how many we're finding, and then we report them back to the large database that does the whole United States. And this project just started a couple years ago, so it's a way to start keeping track of how our insects, especially butterflies and moths, are doing. So if you see other trees that have tags on them, sometimes we tag trees if it's a tree that's an invasive species and it's one that we want to remove. So sometimes you'll see tags on trees for that reason too. Okay, let's see. So here's another shot of the deer exclosure, but what I'm showing you in this video is a box on the tree. So we have a lot of these boxes on the trees out here. This box is actually called a wood duck box. And the purpose of this box is for wood ducks to nest. Wood ducks are one of the few ducks that like to nest high up in the trees. And what they'll do is the babies, when they're ready to go, they'll jump out of the box and bounce off the ground or bounce off the water wherever they're at, and that's how they start their life. We don't really see wood ducks nesting in these boxes, but we have all these boxes throughout our trails because they also provide great homes for screech owls. So that's another way to see if you can find screech owls out on our trails is by looking up in those boxes. Okay, so here is the deer exclosure. I want you to notice how there's not a lot of green right around the deer exclosure, but there's a lot of green inside. So as I mentioned before, we have a lot of deer here on our property, and they eat a lot, especially a lot of wildflowers. And in recent years, the deer population has really grown. Since the early days of this property, it's really grown, and so a lot of our wildflowers can't grow very easily anymore. So some Boy Scouts have come out and put these what we call deer exclosures. So they're not cages, but they're to keep the deer out, so that way some of these wildflowers can still grow. So when you're out here on our trails, if you're looking for wildflowers, one of the best places to check are inside of these deer exclosures, especially the ones near the trail, because you're not supposed to go off the trail. That damages wildlife, plants, and insects. But if they're near the trail like this one, you can definitely take a look inside and see what types of wildflowers might be growing. And here I'm going to be showing you some of those wildflowers that are popping up right now in just a moment. This is one of them. So this is a trillium. It's the common trillium, and we don't see a lot of them here anymore because the deer love them. If you go somewhere like Tenhave Woods in Royal Oak, which is managed by the Royal Oak Nature Society, they have that area in Tenhave Woods that is completely fenced off from deer, which means that a lot of these different types of wildflowers, especially trillium, white and red trillium, are able to grow, and it really is quite fascinating. Here on our property, mostly you're going to see them inside of these deer exclosures, but I did see a couple popping up around the outside of the deer exclosures while I was looking around for things to share with you. Here's another wildflower that you're going to see right now. It's a tiny little dainty wildflower, and you'll see them popping up here and there, and these are called Spring Beauty. These are one of the first wildflowers that you're going to see pop up for the spring season. And they're usually a whitish color with pink, and sometimes they're a little bit darker, closer to purple. But they're a really cute little dainty wildflower that you'll see early in the spring. Here is another picture of that leaf that I was talking to you about earlier. That belongs to the plant called trout lily. Again, you can look at the leaf and see how it looks like, how people would describe it as looking like the body of the fish, a trout. And again, the flowers haven't popped up yet, but they should be popping up any day. These leaves are all over the place, and they'll be yellow flowers that'll be popping up with them. Now, here is a flower that I need to show you. We have a lot of it on our property, and a lot of people see it around their neighborhoods. It is a pretty flower. It's a white flower. But this plant, is something that is highly invasive. So it's a plant that, what that means is that they were brought here. They're not originally from this area. They were brought here. And when they become invasive, they spread to the point that the native wildflowers can't grow, which then means that the native wildlife that depends upon those wildflowers can't get the plants and resources that they need. So it causes problems. And when these invasive plants really become a problem, they just create blankets of areas where that's all that'll grow. And then other native wildflowers can't grow. So this is called garlic mustard. Some people will make stuff from the garlic mustard. But this is all over the place. And right now at this time of year, we would normally have volunteer work days where volunteers come in and help us remove it. Right now, the garlic mustard is kind of having a chance to pop back up because we haven't been able to have a work day yet, although there have been a couple volunteers who have trained with us and who know how to remove them, have helped remove them. Now, when you pull garlic mustard, you have to pull the whole plant out of the ground, the roots and everything, and then you have to put it in a garbage and get rid of it. You can't just leave it out there because it will still go to seed if you leave the plant out there. That's different from another invasive called buckthorn. The buckthorn, you have to still pull out the roots, but you can leave it out there once you pull it, and it won't go to seed. Buckthorn is another problem we have here on our property. We have a lot of buckthorn, and it's another invasive that's completely taking over some areas. And I'll probably be doing another live stream all about our invasives, and I'll go into that further. But you know, we do a lot to try to remove our invasives here, and so that way our natives can grow. That includes the garlic mustard, like this picture, and that includes the buckthorn. All right, so here's another video. So this is another plant that is popping up all over this place. Right now it makes the floor, the ground, look green in a lot of areas. This is called skunk cabbage. It's a big plant. These leaves get really big. And it's not actually cabbage. You don't want to eat it. And there's a reason for that. And that is the same reason why the deer here just don't eat it, and it grows wonderfully. They like wet areas. The skunk cabbage likes moist areas to grow. And the skunk cabbage, early on in its life, when it's first growing especially, it has a really strong smell. So if you break a leaf off at the stem and smell it, it smells really bad. And that smell helps them to keep animals from eating them, and that's why the deer won't eat them. And that's why it's called skunk cabbage, because of that bad smell. And it looks, the way the plant looks, those large leaves looks kind of like cabbage. But right now it's popping up all over the place. It's one of my favorite plants to see out here, and it really covers the forest floor in green. So here is again along our sugar maple loop. And we have a boardwalk here, which is a wonderful area to see the skunk cabbage. It pops up really easily there. But here I'm showing you a sugar maple tree. As you walk along the sugar maple loop, we have a lot of sugar maple trees, and you might notice these trees that have what look like are holes in them. And they are. Those holes are actually from when we tap the maple trees to collect the sugar, to collect the maple sap that we turn into maple syrup. And that's something we do in March here at the Nature Center. Our season was cut short this year with doing programs because of the closure. Here I'm showing the skunk cabbage again. But the sugar maple trees, the sugar maple loop is called that because we have a lot of sugar maple trees. We'll tap the trees and we hang buckets on them. We collect the sap, and then all throughout March we do programs where people can come take a tour of the sugar maple loop. They can see how sap is collected and turned into syrup. This here in this part of the video, that is actually a bee house for our native bees, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. So, and during the sugar maple season, we also let people rent a maple tree, where they pay a certain fee to which was $45 this past year, and they get to, or was it 50? I'm sorry, I can't remember, but they get to have their name put up on the tree, and their name stays up on a tree that they get to tap themselves throughout the whole maple syruping season. They get a box of goodies, and they get to come visit their tree, and they get a tour of the area when they come to tap their trees. So it's a lot of fun. That box that I was showing you again, that's actually a bee house. Honeybees are not native bees. Honeybees are like agricultural animals. A lot of our native bees are solitary bees, and they like to burrow into wood or maybe brick sides of buildings. And these bee houses provide a place for our native bees, a lot of like our mason bees, a place to live. So if you see these boxes up around the property that are painted like that and are close to the ground and have a whole bunch of holes drilled into them, I know people have had debates about this. Those are bee houses for our native bees. So this is another spot from the Sugar Maple Loop. This is from the top of the hill, overlooking where a lot of our sugar maple trees are. It's one of my favorite spots. Like I said, it's up at the top of the hill. It's not a huge hill, but it's a really nice spot to get a good overlook of the sugar maple bush and the skunk cabbage that's growing. So this is another popular spot along the Sugar Maple Trail. This is called our Log Life area. And this Log Life provides an opportunity for people to explore what lives underneath logs. Now, as you come out on our trails, you'll probably see a lot of trees that have fallen down. And if the trees have just fallen down not over the trails, then we leave them. And that's because these trees play an important role in the environment. They provide places for things like insects and other invertebrates to survive. They also provide places for animals to live, like chipmunks like to go inside of fallen trees, and they provide nutrients for the forest floor. So if the tree hasn't fallen over the trail, we usually leave it because it plays an important role. Now in this Log Life area, we have all these logs that we have put together. A lot of these logs came from ash trees that were destroyed by the emerald ash borer years ago that we had to cut down. And we created this area so people could easily explore life that you find underneath the logs. Let me show you another video here. So this video is not from the Log Life area, but it's from the log along the trails. Along the Blackbird Loop, actually. It's a big tree that has been there a long, long time, and I see a lot of insects fly around this tree, but here in just a moment I'm going to flip over the log so you can see what's underneath it, and this is one of my favorite places to check underneath logs. Now it's important to know that if you flip a log, you should always put it back after you're done exploring, because that is the home for the animal. When you flip the log, it's kind of like taking the roof off of a house. So you want to make sure you put it back on so these animals have a place to stay out of the elements. So I flipped the log here, and we're going to see some different things underneath this log. That's skunk cabbage. There's a centipede. So that's one of the common animals you're going to see underneath these logs are the centipedes. No, you don't want to necessarily pick them up because centipedes will bite, and it can be painful because they do have a small amount of venom. Those other little things that you saw there were millipedes, which you can pick up. There's a millipede right there. And the difference between millipedes and centipedes, well, centipedes are carnivorous, so they'll eat other insects and or they'll eat insects and other invertebrates. There's another centipede. Millipedes are not carnivorous. Here we have a roly-poly, also called a pill bug. You'll find a lot of those underneath logs. So and they're a lot of fun to hold and to let walk around in your hand. So the millipedes you can pick up, and they're not going to bite you. The difference between the millipedes and the centipedes is that centipedes have 2 legs per segment, whereas millipedes have 4 legs per segment. Something we also find sometimes underneath logs, which is one of my favorite things, are salamanders. That's an amphibian. If you do find a salamander underneath a log and you want to pick it up, it's very important to make sure that your hands are wet, because amphibians take a lot in through their skin. and you don't want to make them sick or dry out. And again, it's always important to put anything back that you find so that way it can be part of nature, and to put that log back to where it was. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Okay, so one of our favorite things that we see along the trails here are the turkeys, and you can see them all over the place. When I was out exploring the past few days, I saw them on the Sugar Maple Loop, I saw them on the Bluebird Trail, I saw them on the Blackbird Loop, also the Fox Trail area. They are all over the place, and we have a lot of turkeys. So let me play this video here for you. This was a female that was coming down the trail, and you see her shaking off there. They take dust baths. So the turkeys, they like to get a whole bunch of dirt or dust or around their feathers, and that's how they bathe. So if you see a turkey shaking off like that, it's usually after they've taken a dust bath somewhere. So this is a female turkey, and you can tell that she's a female because she doesn't have that bright red head. She's smaller, and she doesn't have a beard, which I'll show you some male turkeys here in just a minute in another video. The next video I'm going to show you is really fast, and I want to show it to you because it's kind of entertaining when you see the turkeys run, which is what she's doing here in this next video, is running away. They are quite used to people here, but again, you don't want to try to feed them or pet them. So here we go. It's really fast, but you'll see her running down the trail here. And there she goes. I love watching the turkeys run. And as you'll see her, she's actually using the trail. So the animals will use our trails just like we do. And they'll make their own trails too. So deer have left a lot of trails on our property of areas where they like to go over the same area over and over again. And you can often see them traveling those trails every day. So anyways, that was one of the female turkeys. And here is a video of some male turkeys that I spotted along the Blackbird Loop. These are 3 male turkeys. So males have beards, although these look like young males because their beards are just very tiny little stubs coming out of their chest. Eventually those beards will grow to be really long, but when they're younger, those beards haven't gotten quite long yet. But you can see that they have those reddish heads. I also love the colors of turkey feathers. When the sun shines on them, they're really pretty. And we do often see males displaying here to the females. And I will say that in previous years, we've seen babies around the trails. So we should be seeing the babies here within the next month or so. I'd keep your eyes out for them. All right, and of course, again, a popular animal here we're going to see along our trails are the deer. It really is quite amazing how well they camouflage. You could be walking along the trails like these 2 deer, and they're laying down and you wouldn't even notice them. We have a lot of deer here. So here in this video, there's a female in the front here that's looking straight at the camera, and then the one behind it, that is actually a buck, and you can see the antlers growing in. So the bucks lose their antlers every winter. They drop their antlers after they're done going through their rut, after they're done mating with the females. They drop their antlers and then they grow them back. So they're in the process, it looks like this one's in the process of growing some antlers, and they're usually kind of fuzzy when they're growing them. Anyway, so these 2 deer, they're just kind of relaxing and eating, and I'm bringing the camera out a little bit here. I'm going to show you around the area just to show you how well they camouflage. Like I said, if they're not walking around and moving around, you might not even see them. This is along the Blackbird Loop. There's a lot of mayapple in the background there. And a little bit further off in the distance there, you can see our meadow. So the meadow is a great place to go visit, especially during the summertime. You can explore, or you can see monarch butterflies and lots of other types of butterflies and bluebirds. We have bluebird houses up, and that's something that you can explore, the meadows. Okay. I have one more video here that I took of some deer. So again, they really do camouflage really well, even when they're walking along. One of the things to look for is that white tail flash, because they'll hold that tail up, especially when they're startled and they're running, and they hold that tail up as kind of like a warning flag to other deer that there's something in the area that they need to be careful of. So I haven't seen any baby deer yet, but I have seen many pregnant does. So we should start seeing the babies, the fawns, quite soon, actually. And last summer, there was at least one set of triplets, we believe, and there were some sets of twins. The deer population here, as I mentioned before, has gotten quite large, and again, as you can see, they eat a lot, so that's why a lot of our wildflowers don't grow. But I'll go more into the deer in another presentation where I'll talk more about them. Okay, so that is to give you a little bit of a overview of some of the highlights from the trails the past few days. I'm going to come back to the camera now here. I took way more videos and pictures than this, but there's so much more to share than what can be done in just 45 minutes to an hour on here. So I hope you guys come out sometime to visit the trails and see what all is out here. The Fox Trail is a trail that goes out a little bit farther, and the Fox Trail, you can see more of the bluebird houses in some of the areas. There's a marsh tower where you can go up onto this little platform and overlook our marsh. You'll see things like red-winged blackbirds out there. You'll also see different spots of the Rouge River as you walk along some of these trails. So there really is a lot to explore, and I only touched on a lot of the things that you're going to see on the trails. So I highly recommend that you get out on the trails sometime soon. I know it's going to get really cold here in the next few days. Some of these plants and animals might go through a little bit of a shock over the temperatures, as we are as well. But then it's supposed to warm up a little bit. So get out on the trails and enjoy them. Again, please practice safe social distancing. It's important that you keep that 6 feet apart. Even if you're not too concerned about yourself, please be respectful of others and give them the space that they need, just to make sure that everybody is staying healthy. So that's very important. There's enough room out here to do that, so please keep that in mind. Please also help keep our trails clean. There's been garbage on the trails. If you bring something with you, take it back with you. There have been some people out here. There's a couple that I met the other day named John and Patty. I want to give a shout out to them, because they have been picking up garbage along the trails just to help out. And it was really nice of them that they were doing that. So we appreciate anybody who's helping like that. So come out on the trails, explore them a little bit, and hopefully we'll reopen here in June and we'll start doing some programs again. But otherwise, this coming Tuesday at 1 p.m., I will again be talking about our leopard frog. You'll get to meet our leopard frog in person, or live here, not in person, but on video. And we'll do another naming fundraiser where we'll open up bids, so that way people can bid to name the leopard frog. So that will be this coming Tuesday at 1 p.m. Thanks again to Nancy Youngerman and Vincent for their bids to name the brown snake. So I think that's it. I hope to see you guys next Tuesday. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm, enjoy the trails, and stay safe and healthy. So I will see you guys, and take care. Bye.